Welcome to Geography for week 3, and it is our last week online. So that's exciting. I can't wait to see you all next week in class. So our learning intention for this week is we're going to be able to look at how technology has improved people's access to other places. So how has technology really helped us in being able to travel overseas, travel down the road, how we can book things much easier. So we're going to be talking all about smart traveling this week. So of course I'm going to start with our acknowledgement of country, and you can pause the video and say it after me, or once I've finished then you can repeat it. We at Rattlemere Public School acknowledge the Darug country, the Aboriginal country on which we stand. We thank you for sharing and caring the land we learn and play on. Together we will help look after the people, animals, and land we are on. We pay our respect to elders past, present, and emerging. We will always remember and never forget. So our topic is smart traveling. How has technology made it easier for us to visit places? Well, technology has made it easier to visit other places because today we can travel just about anywhere in the world. Technology has made travel by plane cheaper and it's quicker, and it also has made planning for trips much easier because I can just go online and get all the information I need to plan a perfect trip. I can just Google search and I can find different hotels, I can find different transport companies to take me to my hotel. I can just book everything online, so it's made it much easier and cheaper to do it this way. So we're going to compare two different trips. We're going to compare a plane trip from 1947, which is this one here in the blue, and we're going to compare it with a plane trip from 2018, so only 3 years ago, and that's this one here in the orange or the red. So first, let's start with the blue one. So in 1947, the original route, which means the original path that it took, 55 hours in the day. It took 4 days to get from Sydney to London. Here we have Sydney. We had to stop at Darwin, and then we had to stop at Singapore, and then we had to stop at Kolkata, and then Karachi, and then Cairo, and then Tripoli, and finally we get to London 4 days later. So that is a very long time to be in a plane. There's stopovers, and you might only get an hour or two off the plane, and then you're back on in the air flying to London. So let's compare it with going from Perth, which is on the other side of Australia, to London. 1 day. It only takes 17 hours. They do it in a non-stop route, which means they don't stop over at another country. Unlike this one, unlike the blue trip, we've stopped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different times before we get to London. This one here from Perth does it in one trip. So once you go up into the air, the next stop is London. So that is a very big difference. 55 hours in the air or 17 hours in the air. I know which one I would be taking. Definitely only a 1 day trip because I do not want to be flying in the air for 4 days. That is just far too long. So now let's look at how technology has changed what we pack. Years ago, most people traveled overseas by ship. And this is what they used to take here by ship, this old suitcase. And it looks like it's made out of leather, really hard, durable material so that it doesn't break. So back in the day, they needed a lot of luggage. But today on a plane, luggage needs to be lightweight, just like this one here, which is made out of material. This is a lighter material. And that's why when you go on planes, you only have a certain amount of kilos to take on. So when you're taking on carry-on luggage, which goes up above you in the headrest, it's only about 7 kilos. But if you want to check on luggage that gets stored under the plane, I think it can be about 20 kilos. And they have to put a weight limit on it because they need to work out how much weight is on the plane for the fuel consumption. So the more weight on the plane, the more fuel that's going to need, the plane's going to need to get to its destination. So let's look at the two different pictures now and let's compare. So this first suitcase here, like I said, is made of a different material. It's lighter material because we rarely travel by ship overseas, don't we? We always travel by a plane. So that means we need to take something that's lighter. This material here is lighter. This first suitcase is more modern. Look at the difference between the two pictures. This first one has wheels. That makes it easier for us to travel. We don't have to carry the suitcase. We can just roll it along with us. Whereas this second one, this is heavier. This material is much heavier, and it also doesn't have wheels. So that seems like it'd be a lot more difficult to take that with you, having to carry that. You would get tired, your arms would get sore, and it's just too big to fit in places like above the headrest on a plane, isn't it? So now we're going to talk about different apps or applications, because apps is a shorter word for applications, that we can have on our phone. Because in the past, it was difficult for people to travel to another country if you couldn't speak their language. It would be hard to, it still is kind of hard to communicate if you don't have a phone or if you don't have any applications that can help you, because different applications that we can download onto our phone now can translate languages. So translation means that we can copy our writing or our speech or our words from one language into a different language, which is pretty cool. So I can put into Google Translate, hello, how are you? And then I can translate it into any other language in the world. And that person that I'm giving that message to will be able to understand it because it's getting spoken in their language. So apps are really useful for when you're traveling overseas. If you don't know how to speak their language, you can use the app and you can ask any questions you have and it will translate into their language. Very cool. So here we have a phone and we've got lots of different travel apps, and these apps have made it easier for people to travel. This first one here is called Airbnb. This one here is you can go onto the application and book a place to stay. It could be for a night or a week, anywhere in the world. People actually rent out their own houses and put it on Airbnb, and you can go stay at someone's house instead of staying at a hotel. It's a little bit cheaper. And there's a few other different apps here. This one here is called Virgin Australia, and Virgin is a plane company. So this one here, if you download it onto your phone before the plane takes off, you can get all the captain's messages through the app, and you'll also be able to book your flights through the app. So I wonder if you can find any apps at home, maybe on your iPad or mum or dad's phone, that have any travel apps that would be useful. Maybe your mum or dad or your carer have used them when they're traveling. So you have two Jamboard activities for this week. This first one here is you need to imagine you were traveling overseas to a country where you did not know how to speak their language. You need to write 4 questions that would be useful for visiting another country. My first question here, where can I find a shop to buy food? That would be really useful for me. I would put that into Google Translate because if I'm going overseas, of course I'm going to need to be able to eat food. So I need to know where I can find a shop to buy food. So you can use my question or you can come up with another one, but you need to write 4 questions in your Jamboard that would be useful for visiting another country that you didn't know how to speak their language. Your second Jamboard activity is you need to have a look on your mum or dad or carer or brother or sister or any other device you have at home and have a look at the apps, the applications on there. Can you see any that would be useful for traveling? I've added one that I have on my phone, and this is Google Translate, what I was talking about before, where you can put words in or sentences and it can translate those words into any other language in the world. So go onto your device at home and see if you can find any that would be useful and add them to your Jamboard.